By accident, I stumbled upon Ethan Shun's phone. He had sent a video of me walking with a cane to a group chat. Who understands this? One message read. Every time I see her limping around, I feel like I could throw up. If I'd known I'd have to spend my life with someone I don't love, I would have rather lost the leg myself. I just want to run away from this wedding. In the next instant, I was taken back to the moment of the accident, just like Ethan always wanted. This time, I didn't rush to save him. This time, he was the one who lost a leg and went blind. Later, when Ethan went to take a shower, his phone buzzed with messages. When I glanced at the screen, I unintentionally caught sight of the conversation. Why not just go out, get drunk, and make a mess of things? One text said, that way, the wedding won't happen tomorrow, or just disappear altogether. Come back in a month, and I'm sure her parents won't blame you. You've taken care of Jenny for 3 years already. You can't be expected to throw your whole life away on her. Just give her family some money. Make it up to them. You could even pretend you don't remember her. I stood there, shocked, my hands trembling. I couldn't believe that the person I'd loved for 10 years, the one I was so anxiously excited to marry, was planning to run away. Each line of chat I read dragged my heart down further. Who understands this? He'd written. Every time I see her limping around, I feel like I could throw up. If I'd known I'd have to spend my life with someone I don't love, I would have rather lost the leg myself. If it weren't for the fact that the Jiang family's company is still worth something, I wouldn't have put up with this for so long. Every word was filled with disdain. He even shared the video of me using a cane in a group chat. In the video, the space where my left leg once was lay empty, amputated below the knee. 3 years ago, when the accident happened, I didn't hesitate to shield Ethan from harm. I took the brunt of the impact, losing my leg as a result. I had been a dancer, but now, I was without a leg. In those dark days, Ethan had seemed so compassionate. He'd lifted me gently into his arms, stayed by my side, encouraging me as I practiced walking again. He whispered to me, Jenny, don't give up. I'll always be here with you. If you can't walk for the rest of your life, then I'll be your legs. But the messages in front of me now felt like a brutal slap to the face. The video he took, supposedly to encourage me, was nothing more than a source of ridicule for them. My effort to walk again was nothing but a pathetic joke to him. As I started to sob, Ethan walked into the room. What's wrong, Jenny? He asked. His voice tense when he saw my tear-streaked face. He kissed my forehead gently. Are you nervous about the wedding tomorrow? Is my Jenny having pre-wedding jitters? I turned my head away and bit my lip hard. When I avoided his embrace, Ethan instinctively tried to hold me, but when he saw the phone screen, his face turned pale. He snatched the phone from my hands, his eyes wide with panic. I forced myself to stay calm, but my body wouldn't stop trembling. Confronted by my questions, Ethan couldn't utter a single word. Finally, his pretense faded, and he dropped the facade entirely. You don't understand anything, he snapped at me. Do you know what these 3 years have been like for me? Every time I go out with friends, they have beautiful girlfriends by their side, and there's only me, all alone. Do you know how many people laugh at me, knowing my girlfriend is a cripple? I want to enjoy life like a normal person too. Each word he spoke cut into me like a blade, slashing my heart open. His gaze was laced with pity and scorn, as if the last 3 years of tenderness had been nothing more than charity on his part. If I could, I wish you'd never saved me, he said. My nails dug into my palms, and in that instant, I wasn't sure which pain hurt more. A burning, suffocating feeling overwhelmed me. All I could hear was the buzzing in my ears, and my mind went blank. Suddenly, everything around me changed. I was no longer in the apartment Ethan and I had shared for the last 3 years. I was in the back seat of a car. On the day Ethan and I went to pick up our graduation certificates from college, there was a loud crash as a truck speeding by hit a car ahead of us, which veered to the left. Our car was hit from behind, and my back slammed against the seat. This time, as Ethan had always wished, I didn't throw myself in front of him. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was Ethan trapped in his seat. I had a long dream. In it, I walked down the aisle in a white wedding dress, heart bursting with joy, waiting for my prince. But in the next moment, The screen that should have shown moments of Ethan and me together suddenly displayed clips of me breaking down in despair, crying uncontrollably. The guests were all pointing fingers at me, and my groom reached for another girl's hand instead. He smiled and said, "Ginny, forgive me. I just can't spend my life with someone I don't love. I can give you lots of money, but I can't keep taking care of you. The only one I've ever loved is Chloe." He left me standing there, alone at the altar, with everyone's eyes on me, filled with pity. I felt like a clown abandoned by the whole world, filled with a hatred I'd never felt before. The intense hatred threatened to swallow me whole. Stumbling and unsteady, I moved like a madwoman. The scene shifted. I found myself on the rooftop of the hotel, the hem of my white wedding dress fluttering in the wind. I spread my arms wide, like a butterfly about to take flight. All I could hear was my mother's desperate scream. When I woke up in the hospital, Ethan Shun was already in the emergency room. For a moment, I was stunned, unable to believe I'd truly returned. I thought it had only been a dream, but as I pinched the flesh on my left leg, the pain felt real. Overcome with joy, I burst into tears. My mother hugged me tightly, her warm tears soaking through my clothes. "Ginny, you nearly scared me to death," she said, her voice trembling with the relief of having me back. But unfortunately, Ethan, memories from my previous life surfaced. My mother's struggle to hold back tears and the chaotic, mournful cries at the wedding. Everything felt like it had happened in another lifetime. How lucky I was to have a second chance. Bearing the pain, I limped to the door of the emergency room, where I could hear the heart-wrenching cries of the Shun family. "No, you can't amputate," one voice shouted. "How could you? Ethan is so proud. He would never accept this." It was Mrs. Shun, crying in despair. Yet, despite their pleading, the doctor regretfully shook his head. "He has a comminuted fracture, and there's also a blood clot in his brain. If we delay any further, we might miss the best window for treatment." In the end, Ethan lost his leg, and it was worse for him than it had been for me. His entire left leg was amputated from the hip down. The doctor also said that, due to the blood clot in his brain, there was a high chance Ethan might go blind. Over the next 2 days, I frequently visited Ethan. The person lying in bed, pale and unmoving, was nothing like the proud, vibrant Ethan I once knew. I sat silently by his bedside, waiting for him to wake up, ignoring my own pain. To everyone else, it seemed like I was deeply devoted to Ethan. Even Mrs. Shin encouraged me to go home and rest, but I stubbornly shook my head, squeezing out a few tears. "I'm fine," I whispered. "I just want to be here when Ethan wakes up. I don't want him to feel sad." In truth, I just wanted to see him wake up, so I could say to him, "Your crippled state is truly disgusting." What would the golden child of the Shun family think when he realized he hadn't only lost a leg but was also blind? On the 5th day, Ethan finally woke up. The room was a mess. Courtesy of him, I assumed. A nurse was picking up shattered pieces from the floor while Mrs. Shun stood nearby, her eyes red and swollen. Though weak, Ethan had enough energy to rage. He hadn't completely fallen apart yet. Perhaps I had underestimated him. He lay on the bed, vacant eyes staring at nothing, resembling a lifeless doll. Just as the doctor had said, the pressure from the blood clot had left him temporarily blind. When his condition stabilized, he'd be able to see again. Mrs. Shun pointed to Ethan's leg, then shook her head at me, and I suddenly realized he didn't yet know his leg was gone. But I had no intention of letting him remain in the dark. Acting as if nothing had happened, I rushed to his side, gripping his hand and sobbing, "Ethan, stay strong. We can get you a prosthetic leg. You'll still be able to ride horses and race." I knew Ethan would be devastated, but I hadn't expected his reaction to be so extreme. He gripped my hand tightly, his voice tense. "What did you just say? Say it again." Startled, I couldn't pull away from his grasp. Despite the pain in my hand, I continued to comfort him. "Ethan, if you want to cry, just cry. I'll stay with you." Like a madman, Ethan tore the 4 needle from his hand, trying to reach down to feel his leg, but he found nothing. Stunned, he started to tremble, then screamed, pounding his remaining leg with his fists. Mrs. Shun rushed to hold him, but he shoved her away, shouting, "Get out, all of you. Get out. For a long time, he sat there, exhausted, finally letting go with a look of despair. His voice tinged with tears, like a trapped animal. I stood nearby, laughing bitterly, tears streaming down my face, not out of sorrow for him but because I was reminded of my past self. In my previous life, when I first learned about my amputation, I had felt the same despair. I trained in ballet for 18 years. Even my teachers had said I was destined to be the brightest light on stage. But I lost my leg, and with it, my dream was shattered. I would never forget that darkest time. I locked myself in my room all day, unwilling to see anyone. I just wanted to hide in a secluded corner. Everything seemed to touch my raw nerves. I couldn't stop myself from self-harm, even contemplating suicide. It was Ethan Shun who broke down the locked door and pulled me out of the blood-stained room, holding me tightly and gently kissing my cheek. "Ginny, I'm sorry. I didn't protect you. Blame me. But don't hurt yourself." He convinced my parents and brought me to his apartment, promising with utmost sincerity that he would take care of me for a lifetime. But in the end, it was all a lie. After we got engaged, Ethan used the resources of the Jiang family, which were superior to the Shin families, to rapidly expand the Shin Group's business. In just 3 years, the Shin Group became one of the top enterprises in the capital, leaving the Jiang family far behind. He even sabotaged the Jiang family in a land bid, suppressing the Jiang Group both overtly and covertly. I remember my mother hinting at these things, but I was too dependent on Ethan then to see what he was really plotting. It wasn't until I saw those chat logs with my own eyes that I realized how terribly wrong I had been. Looking at the devastated Ethan lying in bed now, a thought of Chloe in my mind. Since I had been reborn, I would repay Ethan for everything he'd done to me. If he didn't love me, I would force myself to stay by his side. I'd make him rely on me, fall in love with me, until he couldn't live without me, only to then throw him into despair. So, I hugged Ethan, speaking each word deliberately under Mrs. Shan's shocked gaze. "Don't worry, Ethan. I'll take care of you for a lifetime. Even if you've lost a leg, I'll still be with you." I took on the responsibility of caring for him, visiting his apartment every day without fail. To the outside world, it looked as if I loved Ethan to an extreme. Even Ethan himself believed that, because who would sacrifice their future for someone disabled? When my mother learned I had volunteered to care for Ethan, she almost locked me up. Her eyes were full of confusion. "Ginny, I know you care about him, but his misfortune has nothing to do with you. Why throw away your own future?" I remembered Ethan's cold accusation. "Ginny, go ask your parents. Ask them how they forced me." I didn't know what methods my parents had used to make him compromise. But despite his reluctance and disdain, he had taken care of me for 3 years. Now, I'd never know the full truth. Only after I assured her of my clarity did my mother finally relent. Just as in my past life, the disabled Ethan grew irritable and quick-tempered. Unable to see, he became hypersensitive and paranoid. He constantly complained that the footsteps of the nurse were too loud, or that the cook's food tasted bad. He changed multiple caregivers and smashed numerous objects by his bed within half a month. No one could calm him except me, because only I knew the depths of Ethan's pride and what he needed most. When he subconsciously pursed his lips, I'd hand him a warm cup of water. When he shifted repeatedly, I'd help him to the bathroom. He didn't like the cook's food but enjoyed the soups I made. No one knew how many pots of soup I'd made for him during those 3 years in the past. I knew his tastes all too well. In less than a month, Ethan drove all the caregivers and servants away. From then on, I was the only one allowed in his room. Sometimes, Ethan would look at me with a hint of confusion and say, "Ginny, you're so good to me, but Ethan, don't deserve you now. You shouldn't." I knew Ethan had begun to depend on me, but it wasn't enough. I pressed my fingertip to his lips, my voice soft as water. "I understand everything. I just feel sorry for you. I don't care about anything else as long as you get better." Ethan said nothing more, but his eyes softened further. With my attentive care, Ethan's temper gradually improved, and he broke fewer things. He relied on me more and more, but I knew he hadn't fully fallen in love with me yet. Deep in his heart, there was still his white moonlight. As he recovered, Ethan's brain clot was ready for removal. The Shin family arranged for a top-notch surgeon to operate on him. and the surgery was a success. On the day the bandages were removed, Ethan's mood was visibly uplifted, his eyes constantly darting to the door. I knew who he was waiting for. After countless glances, a figure in white finally appeared. It was Chloe, a talented dance major from University A and my roommate. People often referred to us as the double beauties of the dance department. Chloe had exquisite skills and grace. During sophomore year, Ethan had fallen for her at first sight. Since then, every time he came to see me, it was actually because of Chloe. I loved Ethan Shun for 10 years. To say it didn't hurt would be a lie. But Ethan never rejected me outright, nor did he give me any real response. I knew I had lost thoroughly and had already quietly stepped back. Yet, it seemed they never ended up together either. I wasn't jealous of Chloe Chun at first, but on the eve of the wedding, I discovered something on Ethan's phone. Chat records between them. Ethan, I've missed you these past 3 years. Me too. I regret not accepting you when you liked me. Now I realize the one I truly love is you. If I come back and steal you from the wedding, will you go with me? Every time I recall those words, I feel nauseated. I want to see if this Chloe, who dared to publicly disrupt a wedding in my past life, will still love Ethan this time. So, when Chloe looked at Ethan with tearful eyes full of pity, I brought over the supplies to change his dressings. Ethan, it's time to change your bandages. The atmosphere of intimacy was abruptly interrupted, and the air seemed to freeze for a moment. I paused, awkwardly standing in place. Is this a bad time? But the doctor said it's time for the daily bandage change. It's fine. Jenny, give it to me. I'll take care of Ethan, Chloe said, reaching for the supplies in my hand, preparing to change his dressings. I was more than happy to let her, hoping she wouldn't miss this scene. As Chloe carefully peeled back the bandage on Ethan's leg, she visibly recoiled in shock. His left leg was amputated above the thigh, with the scarred, swollen, and still healing wound a haunting sight that spread like a beast across his skin. There was a loud clang as Chloe's medicine bottle fell to the floor and shattered. She instinctively took a step back, her face showing both shock and fear. The air froze once more. The room was so quiet that everyone's breaths were audible. Ethan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, Chloe stammered, her voice trembling, while Ethan's eyes filled with hurt and disappointment. I'll leave you two to talk, I said, quietly excusing myself from the room, wanting no part in their tangled drama. As I walked out, I heard Ethan's hoarse voice questioning, Are you that afraid of me? Am I so terrifying? Ethan, I didn't mean it that way, Chloe's voice faltered, thick with tears. Shortly after, there was the sound of something being thrown. I couldn't help but smile to myself. Ethan was indeed furious again, but apart from throwing things, it seemed he could do nothing else. Then came Ethan's angry shout. Get out. Get as far away as you can. Don't ever come back. I don't want to see you again. Chloe ran out of the room in tears, shooting me a resentful look as she passed. Without turning back, Ethan even threw the flowers she had brought, narrowly missing my face. I smirked, realizing that so-called true love didn't hold up well against disability. Chloe's reaction had destabilized Ethan's fragile emotions once again. He resumed his destructive rages, throwing objects and even cursing. When he threw his phone once more, I finally saw a hint of impatience in Mrs. Shun's face. After all, Ethan wasn't the Shun family's only son. Since Ethan's disability, his father had only visited once. It was clear to me that Mr. Shun had given up on him. Mrs. Shun, overwhelmed with managing the family business and dealing with external issues involving mistresses and illegitimate children, no longer visited him every day, coming only every few days. Ethan must have noticed his mother's change too, as he grew even more volatile. Each time he erupted in anger, I silently watched from behind the door. He refused to let anyone else near him, and the servants didn't dare approach. When he yelled for water, I pretended not to hear. Only after he'd shouted several times, reaching the peak of his fury, would I step in, gently taking his hand and soothing him. Ethan, I'm sorry. I was making soup and didn't hear you. I'll be quicker next time. Please don't get upset. It's not good for your health. Even in his rage, Ethan would glare furiously at me. I stubbornly turned away. wiping my tears in frustration. If you really hate me that much, I can leave. Finally, a panicked expression crossed Ethan Shun's face. He gripped my hand tightly, fragile and desperate. Don't go, Jenny. I have no one left but you. Time passed, and gradually I realized Ethan couldn't live without me anymore. His body was slowly recovering, and I was thrilled to have finally been accepted into a city's ballet company. After 3 years, I stood once more on the familiar stage, almost moved to tears. As the light music played, I stretched my feet, lifted my shoulders like a butterfly in flight, and reached my arms upward as if I could touch the starry sky. Each leap and spin filled me with endless energy. Because of my exceptional performance, the director recommended me for a ballet competition. To practice more, I went to Ethan's apartment less frequently. His caretaker called me several times, and when I finally made time to visit, she was relieved. Miss Jiang, you're finally here. Young master had another tantrum, and we couldn't calm him down. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw Ethan's expressionless face. His first words were accusing. What have you been so busy with lately? Why haven't you come to see me? Raising an eyebrow, I realized that even the once proud Ethan Shun was now just like anyone else. I smiled at him and happily shared. Before graduation, I applied to join a city's ballet company, and I got in. The director even chose me to represent the company in a competition. I ignored the increasingly dark expression on Ethan's face and continued, growing more excited. That's enough. Jenny. He cut me off. I quickly covered my mouth, feigning a slip of the tongue. Then, glancing down at his empty left leg, I lowered my head apologetically. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't mean to. After a pause, I continued. I was just so happy. I've been so focused on practicing that I neglected you. Once the competition is over, I'll definitely. Before I could finish, Ethan punched the table hard. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Just flaunting my ruined leg to mock me, he sneered, bitterly murmuring. Even you see me as useless. Startled, I took a half step back, momentarily lost. I thought of comforting him, but hesitated. I didn't mean it. Ethan, if you don't want me around, I can leave. Wiping the tears from my eyes, I turned to go. Suddenly, there was a heavy thud. Ethan had tried to reach for me, but in his desperation, he had fallen from the bed. Seeing him like this, I remembered the time he had mocked me, saying, Jenny, you look like a clown hobbling around. Now it was him who resembled a clown. If I could, I'd capture this moment to show Ethan exactly how pitiful he looked. Since that day, Ethan grew even clingier, as if afraid I'd leave. He began calling me endlessly every day, busy with ballet practice. I often ignored his calls, only to find streams of messages from him. Jenny, will you come see me today? Jenny, I miss your rib soup. The caretaker's just doesn't taste as good. I didn't respond, simply muting my phone. My ballet friends teased. Are you fighting with your boyfriend? I laughed and shook my head. Not a boyfriend, just someone clingy and needy. I suddenly realized that playing hard to get worked well with Ethan. With his family's abandonment and his perfect girl out of reach, he had become a cast-off no one wanted. Meanwhile, I had become his most important emotional support. Watching him oscillate between fear of losing me and intense dependence, I knew my plan was working. All I had to do was mention leaving, and he desperately begged me to stay. For some men, seems, the unattainable is the most desirable, and I found it deeply satisfying to mess with Ethan every now and then. Ethan's birthday was approaching. Since his accident, he'd avoided people and cut contact even with his childhood friends. A week ahead of time, I contacted his old friends and prepared a big surprise for him. On his birthday, they showed up early with a huge bouquet, and his closest buddy even brought a limited edition sports car to surprise him. As they entered, Ethan was practicing walking with a crutch. Hey, Ethan, look what we got you. The latest supercar. Our eyes met at that moment. I could clearly see the shock in everyone's eyes, apparently. The outside world hadn't yet heard that Ethan Shun, once the pride of the Shun family, was now disabled. His friends stammered as they tried to greet him, calling him Brother Ethan, while his face turned ashen with a look of shame and discomfort. Who could have imagined that the once golden boy Ethan Shun would end up in such a state? Since the accident, Ethan could hardly stand the mention of cars, and the arrival of his racing buddies, along with a luxury car as a gift, was like salt in his wounds. His fists clenched tightly, the veins on his hands clearly visible, and when he saw the car keys in his friend's hand, he nearly roared. "Who let you in here? Who told you to come? Get the hell out." And just like that, what should have been a pleasant birthday celebration was ruined. I escorted Ethan's friends to the door, apologizing awkwardly. "Please don't take it to heart, Ethan. He just hasn't come to terms with it yet." They all nodded understandingly before leaving with regretful expressions. Back in the room, I was met with Ethan's dark, angry gaze. He gritted his teeth, saying, "Jenny Jiang, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You wanted them to come and mock me." I looked down at him from above, nonchalantly. "Did I?" His expression shifted to one of infinite sadness. He looked at me almost pleadingly. "Why are you doing this? I was ready to spend my whole life with you. I love you so much." I couldn't help but laugh. Back when I needed his love the most, he found me repulsive, complaining to his friends every time we were close, saying, "She's disgusting. Can't stand touching her. When will this end?" Now that he was the one with a crippled leg, he was prepared to commit to me for life and claimed he loved me? What a joke. I didn't need such cheap love. Now it was my turn to feel repulsed by him. So, I recited to him the words I'd long prepared. "Bro, who would understand? Every time I see her limping around, it makes me want to throw up. If I'd known I'd spend a lifetime with someone I didn't love, I'd have preferred to be the one to lose a leg." Watching Ethan's face fill with confusion, I stepped closer and leaned into his ear, smiling as I whispered, "How does it feel to be humiliated, Ethan? Because in my previous life, you treated me just like this. Did you really think I'd devote myself to loving a cripple like you?" Ethan's eyes widened as if recalling something, and he gripped his head, trembling in pain. He fell to the floor, rolling in agony, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. I looked on indifferently, feeling a deep satisfaction. No one knew how many nightmares I'd endured since my rebirth. Dreams where Ethan pretended to cherish me only to push me into the abyss. Waking up from those nightmares, I would often be shaken, fearing my rebirth was just a dream, and that I'd soon return to being Jenny Jiang, the bride abandoned on her wedding day. I fixed my gaze on his injured leg, spitting out the words, "Ethan, you look truly disgusting with one leg." At last, Ethan crumbled completely, staring up at me with bloodshot eyes, a pitiful growl escaping his throat. I ignored him, opened the door, and left, his desperate plea echoing faintly behind me. "Jenny, don't go, please." With that, my ties with Ethan were fully severed, and I no longer needed to visit his apartment. I focused solely on preparing for the ballet competition. Few days later, news spread through our circle that the Shun family's heir had become a cripple. Ethan's mother called me a few times, each time begging me to visit him. I refused again and again, but she wouldn't give up. "Ning Ning, please just go see Ethan. He won't listen to anyone else but you. Just visit him at the hospital for old time's sake." After hanging up, I found it laughable. After all I'd done to him, he still wanted me to visit? He wasn't afraid I'd say something even more hurtful? I dismissed it, focusing entirely on my training. Day and night, I practiced tirelessly. No one knew how much effort I put into it, but I knew how much I'd longed for that stage over the past 3 years. Every move, every turn, filled with elegance, brought tears to the audience's eyes. Finally, the day came, and I won the competition with a resounding victory. The applause thundered through the hall, almost deafening, and tears filled my eyes. In that moment, I forgot the hatred, the pain. I was nothing but the shining swan on stage. It felt as if a heavy stone in my heart had finally lifted. The competition had ended, and with it, so much more. I received a call from Ethan Shun. His voice was gentle, with a faint hint of laughter. "Jenny, congratulations." "Thank you," I replied. In a haze, I heard him take a deep breath and say, "Jenny, I remember everything from before. I know I wronged you, that I toyed with your feelings. You have every right to hate me, but I never wanted you to die. I turned my head to watch the neon lights flicker outside and didn't reply. Ginny, do you feel anything for me besides hate? He asked, his voice hesitant. No, I cut him off, firm and resolute. Some things were doomed from the start to be beyond repair. There was a brief silence on the other end before I heard him murmur, I see. The next time I saw Ethan Shun was in a hospital corridor, sitting in his wheelchair. His face was pale and exhausted. The once vibrant young man seemed like a withered old soul. His nurse told me he was refusing treatment, and his injuries from the car accident had flared up again. After Ethan became disabled, it only took a few short months for his illegitimate half-brother to be openly welcomed back into the family and take over the Shun family business. Ethan's mother was so infuriated that she ended up in the hospital, while turmoil consumed the Shun family. Yet, Ethan seemed to have no desire to fight for anything. He stayed in his apartment day after day, staring blankly at the crabapple blossoms in the garden. When our eyes met, Ethan's expression froze in surprise, and an uncontainable glimmer of hope flickered in his gaze. Ginny, did you come to see me? He asked. Then, almost immediately, he laughed bitterly. Of course not. You hate me too much. He looked at me carefully and asked softly, Ginny, if there were a next life, would you forgive me? I gave him a calm smile. Ethan, it's all in the past. I don't hate you anymore. But I also don't want to forgive you. As soon as the words left my mouth, the last glimmer of light in his eyes faded, leaving him in despair. Although I no longer hated him, I would never forget the rage I felt the moment I learned the truth. I could let go of my hate, but forgiveness was out of the question. The last news I heard of Ethan Shun was about his death. Ethan, the young master of the Shun family, had taken his life at 3 a.m. in his private apartment in Begonia Bay. He died from a self-inflicted wrist cut, and by his side was a bouquet of fresh crabapple flowers. Crabapple blossoms were my favorite. In my previous life, to make me happy, Ethan had filled his entire garden with them. Maybe, just maybe, Ethan did truly care for me back then. A gentle breeze passed outside the window, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the boy I once genuinely loved. He would congratulate me with flowers whenever I won a competition, taking me out to celebrate all night. When I did poorly on an exam and got scolded, he would pull me to the library to study. When I left him speechless with frustration, he'd tap my forehead with helpless affection. I would push through a crowded hallway, holding his backpack like a fool, watching him play basketball, and then ride home together on his bike at sunset. Back then, I thought we'd be like that forever, never knowing reality would leave us both battered and broken. Much later, I learned the meaning of crabapple flowers, bittersweet longing and hopeless love. Just like me and Ethan, when I loved him, he looked down on me. By the time he looked back, I no longer wanted to turn around. Tormented by lung cancer until my last ounce of strength was gone, I finally closed my eyes. Yet my soul did not vanish. It merely left my body. In the hospital room, I saw my husband, barely in his 40s, and my childhood best friend, tightly embracing each other. They looked like lovebirds, whispering sweet nothings. Don't be too sad, Emily said. Renee is gone now, but you're lucky, Liam, because you still have me with you. Liam held her tightly. From now on, I'll take care of you in her place. Emily continued. I'll even give you a child, to keep you company. You don't need to replace anyone. Liam replied, his voice tender. The one I've always loved is you. I love you too, Liam. Emily responded. How touching. If I weren't already a ghost, I might have applauded this shameless pair. I thought back to when Emily's husband died of stomach cancer. She wasn't particularly heartbroken. In fact, it was Liam who cried for her, taking on all her burdens. Back then, Emily said to me, now that I'm alone, please look after me. I comforted her, and she confided, honestly, I've never loved my late husband in this life. You don't know how envious I am that you have Liam. I was so naive back then that I completely missed the subtext. I even hugged her and said, we're family. If it makes you happy, you can treat Liam as your husband too. When I said this, I didn't notice Liam accidentally knocking over a plate, nor Emily's gaze, full of longing, directed at him. Looking back now, My words were utterly inappropriate. 20 years of marriage. And I failed to see that they'd been secretly involved all along. The suffocating anger and bitterness within me formed an overwhelming force that dragged my soul into a dark abyss. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself 20 years in the past. I was in a cafe, sitting with 3 friends during a matchmaking event. Across from me was Professor Ethan Gray, young and refined, wearing thin-rimmed glasses. His features were so elegant. They seemed drawn from a comic book. In my previous life, Emily had claimed she didn't like tall men, but after the event, she had approached Ethan, and the two quickly got together and married. As for me, I ended up with Liam, a rugged man who, over countless casual walks, grew on me. But now, I could see it clearly. Liam's eyes never left Emily. This time, I decided to act first. Even if nothing came of it, being with Ethan for once would be worth it. Professor Gray, I like you. Shall we go for a walk? Emily looked at me, stunned. Normally, I'd let her make her choice first. To my surprise, Ethan replied, "All right." He stood, picked up my bag, and said, "Shall we?" It wasn't until we were far from the cafe that I snapped back to reality. I looked at him apologetically. "I'm sorry for saying something like that. Please don't misunderstand. I didn't mean." Ethan smiled softly, adjusting his glasses with a finger. "Miss Chun, don't you want to go on a date with me?" His smile made my thoughts scatter, leaving only the thudding of my heart. Truthfully, Ethan's looks didn't match modern standards. He was too scholarly, too delicate. He didn't seem physically strong. But when he looked at me, I still heard my heart skip a beat. "Professor Gray, don't you mind that I'm not good enough for you?" Ethan chuckled. "I think you're wonderful, Miss Chun." In the days that followed, Emily didn't come to me, likely busy with Liam. I didn't bother asking and focused entirely on dating Ethan. This was an era where fast-paced relationships weren't common. Dating meant simple walks and talks about life and dreams. When I mentioned that I had to drop out of school to support my younger siblings, Ethan suddenly interrupted me. "Why not take the college entrance exam again? Renee, start over. Education will become increasingly important in the future." He was right. Living this life again. I'd been so preoccupied with avoiding Liam and Emily that I'd forgotten about my own future. But having been a housewife for decades, I felt unsure. "Can I do it?" Ethan held my hand. "Trust me, Renee, you absolutely can." When I got home, Emily was waiting at my door, her face filled with anger. "Renee, why are you stealing Ethan from me?" Unlike me, who appeared older due to the burden of family responsibilities, Emily was lively and charming, a girl who dreamed of romantic, fairy tale-like love stories. I'd always thought Emily and Ethan grew apart only after marriage, and I'd been too busy with my life to notice. Back then, Liam was a skilled worker with a decent income. He wasn't domineering, and he was thoughtful. When I was pregnant, he'd come home early to cook, rub my feet when I felt uncomfortable, and chat with me about everyday matters. One time, Emily visited and saw this. She sighed with envy. "Your Liam is such a sweet talker." I was proud but assumed Ethan was no different. I told her, "Ethan's a scholar. He's probably even more romantic than Liam." But Emily frowned. "Don't even mention him. He's just a bookworm. He annoys me." She paused, then muttered, "On our wedding night, he didn't even stand up for me when his aunt humiliated me. Then he had the nerve to want, as if. You mean you two never?" I asked, stunned. Emily raised her chin proudly. "A woman's body and soul must be in harmony for true happiness. Otherwise, what's the difference between us and animals?" Back then, I didn't know Emily had essentially turned Ethan into a celibate monk for life. Not until Ethan passed away from stomach cancer did Emily cry to me about her grievances. Thinking back, she must have loathed Ethan. So why did she now act like I'd stolen her true love? I frowned at Emily. "Do you actually like Ethan? Or do you just hate that I chose him?" Her face turned red. You're talking nonsense. What kind of person do you take me for?" Emily's face flushed as she confronted me. "Then what did you mean by what you just said?" Unable to win the argument, she resorted to acting spoiled. "I don't care. I like Ethan Gray now, and you need to give him to me." I let out a bitter laugh. I'm not your mother. Why should I give him to you? Even if I had to, I'd give him to a pig or a dog before letting you hurt Ethan again. I stood my ground, frustrating her to the point where she stomped her feet in anger. Just as she was about to say something, a calm voice interrupted us. Even if she agreed, I wouldn't. Ethan had returned, standing under the willow tree, his gaze cold. He looked at Emily with disdain. Who do you think you are to decide for me? Are you even worthy? Emily's face turned bright red. She glanced at Ethan with a pitiful expression, but he was utterly unmoved. Ethan walked over and handed me a set of books. I thought you might not have the time, so I bought these for you. His considerate gesture only fueled Emily's jealousy, and her face twisted with anger. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Renee, we've grown up together. I've always treated you like my sister. Why are you fighting me for Ethan? I really want to be with him. Please, just let me have him. Her tearful performance was flawless, but Ethan only sneered. Do you not understand human language? I already said, even if she stepped aside, I still wouldn't choose you. His words carried an unmistakable tone of disdain. I glanced at him, momentarily surprised. This point in time, Ethan shouldn't have been very familiar with Emily. Before I could process it further, Emily ran off in a huff. Ethan turned to me, his tone firm. Don't you dare give me to her. Got it? I nodded. Got it. With the books in hand, I returned home. Before I could even put them down, a sharp slap landed on the back of my head. You little brat. Where did you get the money to buy books? My mother was livid, glaring at me. A friend gave them to me. I replied. What friend? Don't lie to me. Did you steal money from the house? Her expression grew darker. Are you insane? That money was for your brother's nutrition. I was going to make him a good meal on his rare day off, and you wasted it on books. In the chaos, I couldn't explain myself. I only remember showing up the next day with a bruised face, which Ethan immediately noticed. He looked genuinely concerned. Sorry, I mumbled. The books you bought were returned by my mom. His expression turned stormy. Don't worry. I'll pay you back for the money. I don't care about the money, he sighed, saying no more. That evening, Ethan showed up at our door with several bags of fruit. I don't know what he said to my mother, but after he left, her demeanor changed completely. Wow, I didn't expect my daughter to snag a teacher. Renee, don't forget to look after your brother when you're successful in the future, she said, beaming as she headed to the kitchen. I didn't respond. My mind was set. I'd leave as soon as I got into college. Ethan and I got married shortly after. The fruit he brought that day was actually part of his proposal. Though the wedding was rushed, all the proper traditions were observed. I even sent invitations to Emily and Liam, but neither of them showed up. During the tea ceremony, Ethan's mother suddenly asked me to kowtow to their ancestors. My heart skipped a beat, remembering Emily's complaints about her own wedding. Still, I obediently knelt and bowed 3 times, hitting my head so hard it turned red. Ethan's mother burst out laughing and quickly helped me up, placing a jade bracelet on my wrist. Our family isn't wealthy, but this heirloom is yours now. So this was the so-called humiliation Emily had mentioned? Looking at the vibrant green bracelet, my emotions were conflicted. Ethan held my hand and said softly, Mom's giving it to you. Just take it. After the wedding, the guests left, and the house fell silent. Sitting on the wooden bed, I felt an unfamiliar shyness. It was ironic. After my miscarriage in my previous life, Liam rarely touched me again. On the rare occasions he did, he would light a cigarette and smoke in silence afterward. It wasn't until after my death that I learned the miscarriage had been caused by the blood-thinning medicine Emily had given me. Ethan walked in after his shower, wearing his pajamas and holding a towel. He gently dried my hands. His lips flushed from the alcohol he had consumed. What are you thinking about? Are you scared of me? He asked softly. I shook my head, pushing aside the complicated emotions. No children meant fewer attachments. I'm more afraid of losing control, I replied with a smile. Ethan chuckled and handed me a towel. The hot water's ready. Go take a bath. Blushing, I headed to the bathroom. Halfway through my bath, the lights suddenly went out. Startled, I stood up just as Ethan entered, holding a candle. His voice was husky as he spoke. My wife is full of surprises. What followed was natural and intense. His passion overwhelmed me, leaving me utterly spent. When the lights flickered back on, Ethan's dark eyes locked onto mine as if I were his entire world. In my previous life, I hadn't spent much time with Ethan. I only remembered him as cold and aloof. Emily often complained that he was always busy with work, frequently staying overnight at the university. He had climbed the ranks from teacher to professor, giving all his earnings to Emily, while she spent her days shopping and drinking coffee. He only owned 2 worn-out suits until his death. Thinking about it now, my chest ached with sorrow. Ethan noticed my mood and leaned closer. Renee, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? I hugged him tightly. You're perfect. From now on, I'll treat you the way you deserve. Ethan. He kissed me, murmuring something softly, but by the time I tried to listen closely, only a sigh remained. The next day, it was perfectly reasonable that I couldn't get out of bed. Blushing, I clumsily climbed out of the covers, only to be pulled back by Ethan. Where are you going so early? He asked, holding me tightly. I need to make breakfast, I mumbled. After holding me in his arms for a while, he finally got out of bed. You were too tired last night. Sleep a little longer. I'll handle it. Watching his back, covered with faint red marks, I buried my face in the blanket, cheeks burning. Perhaps marrying Ethan wasn't such a bad thing after all. Living in sweet harmony with Ethan made me almost forget about Emily, until the day Liam suddenly showed up. To be honest, across both lifetimes, I rarely got angry at Liam. In the previous life, he had been a decent husband, a responsible father. Apart from not loving me, he didn't really do anything wrong. But when he confronted me, saying I should return Ethan to Emily, I couldn't hold back my anger. A deep, seething hatred surged within me. And what about me? I snapped, startled by the venom in my own voice. Liam opened his mouth but only managed a faint chuckle after a moment. I'll marry you, he declared, his tone firming. You should divorce him. I'll marry you. I laughed bitterly. And then what? Then we'll live a good life together, he replied. After a pause, he added, don't worry. I won't look down on you for being divorced. If God could grant me X-ray vision, I bet my brain at that moment was filled with enough question marks to shatter the ceiling. Disbelieving, I stared at him. Do you really think you're better than Ethan? Why should I choose you? Without hesitation, he blurted out, because you owe Emily. What nonsense is this? Emily liked Ethan first. She's your friend. How could you steal someone from her? She cries at home every day and is sick now. If anything happens to her, you'll be the sinner. I was now convinced. Both Liam and Emily had some serious issues. One loved to take things that didn't belong to them, while the other was obsessed with self-sacrifice and moral superiority. Taking a deep breath, I suppressed my anger. Leave. Now. Or I swear I'll beat you to death. Liam, you and Emily are a perfect match. The two of you should be locked together for life and stop bothering others. Kicking him out, I laughed loudly as he tripped and fell flat on his face on the way out. Acting like a shrew felt surprisingly satisfying. Turning around, I froze. Ethan was standing at the door, holding a box of pastries, silently watching me. Oh no, had he heard everything I said just now? Awkwardly, I fumbled for an excuse, but to my surprise, he didn't bring it up even after dinner. Later, after showering, I knocked on the door of his study. Ethan was sitting there, staring into space. When he saw me, he waved me over. As soon as I got close, he pulled me into his arms, burying his head against my chest. Renee, I want to confirm something. What is it? Let's talk. But no hitting. Okay? He murmured into my ear before biting my earlobe playfully. The words he said next made my mind spin. But in a flash of realization, I widened my eyes. Ethan cupped my mouth quickly. Quiet. My parents are asleep. My heart raced so fast I felt dizzy. Tentatively, I asked, do you also? He nodded, his gaze intense. Yes, I've been reborn too. No wonder. No wonder he agreed to my proposal so quickly that day. No wonder he harbored a mysterious hostility toward Emily. No wonder he encouraged me to take the college entrance exams. I was so overwhelmed with relief I almost cried. That's amazing. Truly amazing. The tragic downfall of a once proud man had always been a lingering regret in my heart. A bitter injustice. But now, the heavens had given Ethan a second chance. I leaned into his embrace and slowly wrapped my arms around him. He hugged me tightly, carrying me to the bedroom, where we lay closely together. His arms felt safe and steady, making me feel at peace. After a while, I asked the question that had been bothering me. What really happened between you and Emily in the past? Emily had told me many stories about Ethan. How cold, quiet, and arrogant he was, and how difficult his personality had been. I had always assumed these traits were the reason they didn't get along. But Ethan's response surprised me. She tricked me into marrying her from the start, he said. At first, I thought she genuinely liked me, but on our wedding night, she refused to be with me and cried, saying my mother had humiliated her with a bracelet. I explained countless times that my mother didn't mean it that way, but she wouldn't listen. Later, I begged her for peace, but she deliberately humiliated me in front of others. When she got cancer, she admitted she had regretted marrying me early on, but she couldn't bear to lose me as her husband, so she kept me tied to her, wasting my life. Even after I died, she wouldn't let me go. While my body was still in the mortuary, she clung to Liam, crying and kissing him, telling him how much she despised me for ever loving her. Ethan's tone was calm, like he was recounting someone else's story, but I knew he was just as heartbroken as I was. I patted his shoulder gently. Stop. I know everything. That's why I cherished him even more. Ethan kissed my forehead softly and said, by the way, I saw something that day. What was it? I asked, propping myself up. Instead of answering, he cupped my chin and kissed me deeply. You used a handkerchief to cover the hole in my shirt. I remember seeing Ethan in my past life, lying in his coffin, having died from cancer. Unlike other cancer patients, he looked as if he had merely fallen asleep. Just a wall away, Emily was complaining to someone, saying, he's so selfish, leaving me a widow at such a young age. My life is so hard. Seeing the man in the coffin, even his shirt had a hole in it, and my chest felt tight with grief. This man, he was excellent in every way, yet his marriage was miserable, and he lived a lonely life. But his wife, Emily, was my best friend, so I couldn't say anything. Taking out a handkerchief I always carried with me, I folded it neatly and tucked it into his shirt, giving him at least a final shred of dignity. Recalling that moment, Ethan's voice caught as he held me tighter and deepened the kiss. Overcome with emotion, tears spilled from his eyes. Renee, thank goodness I have you. This time, let's live a good life together. His solemn promise was suddenly followed by a cheesy comment, and I couldn't help laughing. Your jokes are so outdated. You even throw in sound effects. He flushed a little, scratching his head. A student told me about it. From that point, I threw myself wholeheartedly into preparing for the college entrance exams. Meanwhile, Ethan started studying computers, determined to seize the opportunities of the upcoming internet boom. During our busy days, we heard the news that Emily had married Liam. She even sent an invitation, asking me to attend the wedding banquet. Considering the bond we shared for half a lifetime, I once thought of her as a sister. I never expected us to end up at odds because of a man. On her wedding day, Emily wore a red dress, her expression unreadable. Liam, on the other hand, was beaming, drinking and laughing from table to table. When he drunkenly tried to hold Emily's hand, she subtly avoided him. Watching this, I couldn't quite describe how I felt. The banquet lasted until late afternoon. Ethan came to pick me up after class, looking dashing in a new shirt and trousers I had bought him. I couldn't resist planting a kiss on his cheek. As I climbed onto his bicycle, I accidentally locked eyes with Emily, who had been watching us. She caught sight of Ethan, and a flicker of astonishment crossed her face. Ethan, however, kept his gaze on me, smiling as he adjusted my pant leg. Let's go, he said. Few days later, Emily showed up at my door, shuffling awkwardly. She apologized. Renee, I was wrong. Please don't ignore me. I said nothing. merely letting her in for a short chat. After that, it was as if our quarrels never happened. Emily began visiting frequently, sometimes staying until dinner. On one such visit, she glanced at the door and asked, "Is Ethan still at work? He's really busy." Huh. In truth, Ethan had been staying late at school for a week to avoid her, but I didn't expose her. Smiling faintly, I replied, "He's been busy lately and comes home late." Emily's face fell slightly, but I asked pointedly, "Shouldn't Liam be home soon? Don't you need to cook for him?" She pursed her lips. "He can just grab something himself. He comes home reeking every day and still expects to be served like a king. Dream on." I simply smiled and saw her out. Shortly after, Ethan returned, frowning slightly. "When are you going to cut ties with her? I've been stuck at school all week just to avoid her. I miss you." These days, Ethan resembled a mischievous cat, affectionate and clingy in private, with love confessions so cheesy they made me blush. Pushing him away lightly, I teased, "After my exams and when your teaching license arrives, we'll move to the city. It's better than causing tension with the neighbors here." Ethan kissed me softly. "All right, I'll listen to my wife." Despite his efforts to avoid her, Emily eventually caught Ethan at home. It was a rare weekend, and early in the morning, she knocked on the door. When she stepped inside and saw Ethan sitting on the couch, her face turned red as she hurried over. "Mr. Ethan, what are you doing here?" she asked coyly. Ethan glanced at me in the kitchen and instinctively shifted away from her. Emily didn't seem to notice and sat down right next to him. "I heard you're a teacher. There are some words in my books I don't understand. Can you teach me?" Her low-cut dress revealed far too much, and Ethan's expression darkened. With a cold laugh, he stood up. "Emily, please respect yourself. My wife is in the kitchen." Without another word, he walked away, leaving Emily blinking back tears of embarrassment. She turned and met my calm gaze, guilt flashing across her face. "Renee, you're done," she stammered. "Yes," I replied, just in time to see this little show. "I don't know what you're talking about," Emily said, feigning innocence and changing the subject. "You have so many books here. Are they Ethan's?" "No, they're mine. I'm preparing for the college entrance exams." As expected, Emily's expression stiffened slightly, forcing a smile. She asked, "Why bother? You're already married. Isn't that too much trouble? Is Ethan not treating you well?" I shrugged. "Not at all. He's the one who encouraged me to take them. He said that after I passed the exam, he'd figure out a way to get me a job at the school." Emily's face darkened. Deep down, she always believed she was better than me, and instinctively wanted to compete with me in everything. In the past, I couldn't see through these things. I was too caught up in our friendship. If she wanted to compete, I let her. If she wanted compliments, I flattered her to make her happy. I gave in to her on everything. But in the end, she still did something as outrageous as flirting with my husband in front of my corpse. Thinking back now, how much of Liam's coldness toward me benefited her? Knowing that my husband stayed faithful for her sake, how smug must she have been? "Emily, since you love comparing yourself to me so much, I'll make sure you'll never win in this lifetime." For a few days after that, she didn't contact me. I focused entirely on my studies. When I visited my parents' home, I overheard my mother mentioning that Emily had argued with her husband again. Apparently, she had demanded to take the college entrance exam, but Liam, a mere technician, didn't understand much about it and simply bought her some books, thinking that would suffice. Emily studied for 2 days before getting frustrated and picking a fight with Liam. In a fit of rage, she even hit him on the head, leaving a visible injury. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel that karma was working its magic. Relieved, I buried myself even deeper into my books. The night before the exam, Emily suddenly showed up at my door with a pot of chicken soup. "Renee, I made this especially for you. It's from a hen my mother-in-law raised for 3 years. It's delicious. Try it." I glanced at the golden broth and immediately felt wary. "I'm not drinking this." "Why? Are you afraid I've added something to it?" she asked, laughing nervously. "Exactly," I said with a shrug. "I'm worried you've poisoned it." A flicker of anger and resentment crossed Emily's face, but she quickly masked it with a laugh. We've been friends for over a decade. How could you doubt me? You're breaking my heart. Here. I'll drink some to prove it. She poured herself a bowl and downed it in one go, then filled another and handed it to me. See? Now do you trust me? Watching her eagerness, I smiled faintly. Nope. Just as I was about to continue, Ethan's voice called out from behind me. Renee, Mom's looking for you. Come back inside. Grateful for the interruption, I smiled politely at Emily, bid her goodbye, and followed Ethan into the house. The next day, Ethan took the day off to accompany me to the exam. When I finished and walked out, he handed me a thermos. Emily ended up in the hospital last night with severe diarrhea, he said with a smirk. Hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh. How did this dimwit manage to fool me for over 20 years in the last life? It's fine, I said, shaking my head. You're not her only victim. My response amused Ethan, who reached out to wipe a stray drop of water from the corner of my mouth. True, he said with a chuckle. We're in this together. Let Liam enjoy all the blessings now. We'll focus on our own happiness. Hand in hand, we strolled home, but as we approached the door, we saw Liam crouched outside like a dejected child. Liam, what are you doing here? I asked. It's creepy to see you curled up like that at night. Liam looked up, his expression conflicted. He rushed toward me but froze when he saw Ethan and me holding hands. Why didn't you choose me? He stammered, his gaze fixed on me. Why? Because Ethan is handsome and has a great body. Of course, I replied with a hint of mockery. No, you were supposed to be my wife, he shouted, gripping my hand tightly. Admit it. You were meant to marry me. We even had a child together. Don't you remember? His hands were icy, his grip terrifyingly strong. That moment, I realized Liam had also been reborn. Seeing him so agitated, Ethan stepped in front of me protectively. Liam, what's your problem? Showing up at someone else's home in the middle of the night and acting crazy? Let go of my wife. Shut up. She's my wife. Liam roared. We lived together for 20 years. I was the one who buried her. Who do you think you are to take her from me? Hearing this, I couldn't hold back any longer. I slapped him hard across the face. You dare call me your wife? I spat, trembling with anger. Where was that when you flirted with Emily right in front of my corpse? Aren't you two true love? Didn't you remain faithful to her? Didn't you emotionally abuse me for her sake? Liam, we were married for 20 years. Don't you know whether you treated me well or not? Do you know why I died? Why I got lung cancer? It's because you spent every day pining for Emily and smoking in our bedroom. I was only 40 years old. You animal. The hatred from my past life surged through me, and I couldn't stop shaking. This week, selfish man had abused me emotionally for an entire lifetime. And now he had the audacity to confront me? Liam, if it weren't for Emily, would I have miscarried? My words struck him like a hammer. He stumbled back, his face pale with a mix of terror, regret, and grief, before collapsing to his knees in front of me. I'm sorry, Renee. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I can't live without you. The man before me, dressed in dirty work clothes and reeking of sweat, was a far cry from the one I had pampered with hot meals and comfort for 2 decades. Looking at him now, I wondered, did he miss me? Or did he miss having someone take care of him? Perhaps even Liam didn't know the answer to that. Ethan and I stood coldly watching Liam cry for a while, exchanging a glance. Ethan stepped forward and pried Liam's hands off me. He looked at him sternly and said, If you truly like Renee, I'm willing to compete with you fairly, but only on the condition that you're a free man. Right now, your wife is still waiting for you at the hospital. Go take care of her. Staying here and causing a scene will only tarnish Renee's reputation. With that, Ethan pulled me inside. Once we were away from prying eyes, I leaned closer to him. If Liam gets a divorce, would you really let me go? I teased. He cornered me against the wall, his expression serious. Stop dreaming. You're mine. The college entrance exam results came out. I got into a university in Beijing. After discussing it with Ethan and his parents, we decided to sell the house and move to Beijing together. While packing, I overheard that Emily had brought up divorce to Liam. This time, Liam didn't try to stop her, and they quickly finalized the paperwork. In our small town, divorce was considered a scandal. Gossip about who was at fault spread like wildfire. One afternoon, I went out to buy groceries. When I returned, I found that Emily had slipped into our house while the doors were open for the move. She went straight to the second floor, where Ethan was organizing his books. When Ethan turned around, he was startled to see Emily lying stark naked on the bed. "What are you doing? Are you insane? Put your clothes back on," he yelled. Emily remained unfazed, rising slowly and walking toward him with deliberate steps. "Ethan, I know you've come back too. It was my fault in the last life. I shouldn't have ignored you," she said. She was dolled up, her hair styled, and her figure confident. As she closed in, her eyes were seductive and alluring. In her mind, men could always be charmed with sweet talk and physical allure. That's how she'd captivated Liam so completely in the last life. Surely this reserved professor would be no exception. But she underestimated Ethan's self-respect and principles as a man. His expression darkened, and he bolted downstairs. Running into the street, he shouted, "Whose pig wandered into my house? Come take it back." It was evening, and neighbors were gathered outside chatting. Curious, they all rushed inside to see what was happening. Emily, caught off guard, didn't have time to fully dress and was exposed in front of everyone. When I returned with groceries, I heard the commotion and saw Emily wrapped in a blanket, storming out of the house. As she brushed past me, she shot me a venomous glare. I immediately guessed what had happened and instinctively looked for Ethan. He was leaning casually against the wall, arms crossed, watching me. Amidst the bustling crowd, our eyes met. His lips curved into a faint smile as he silently mouthed, "Come here." I squeezed through the crowd to stand beside him. As the neighbors dispersed, they commented on Emily's pale legs and figure, but I paid no attention, lost in the warmth of Ethan's gaze. He took my hand and planted a light kiss on it. "Honey, I've avenged you today." "This fool." I laughed and ruffled his hair. "Our virtuous Mr. Ethan. So composed. You've done well. Then you'd better reward me properly tonight," he teased. The gossip spread like wildfire. Soon, the whole town was laughing at Emily's misfortune. Her parents, humiliated, locked her inside and beat her severely. My mom told me her father accidentally scarred Emily's face with a stick, leaving a permanent mark. I got into a university in Beijing, and Ethan was admitted to the same school. I studied literature, while he majored in computer science. After graduation, he stayed on for his PhD, while I joined a promising startup. In our first year post-graduation, we bought our first home and brought Ethan's parents to live with us. It was a spacious 4-bedroom apartment, comfortable for everyone. 2 years later, Ethan became a professor at the university, and we saved up to buy a small apartment as an investment. During this time, I became pregnant, and Ethan took a long leave to stay home and care for me. His parents, still active in their professional lives despite their age, moved to their workplace housing to give us space. Ethan and I lived a peaceful, happy life. To make up for the regrets of our past life, I loved buying him clothes, dressing him sharply so his students would admire him. Ethan didn't mind, letting me have my fun. Once I was satisfied, he'd use it as leverage to tease me in return. Both of us had succumbed to cancer in our previous lives, so we made it a point to get annual checkups. Thankfully, we were in excellent health. I knew my lung cancer had been caused by secondhand smoke, but I never understood why Ethan had developed cancer until a doctor explained that prolonged stress could lead to gastrointestinal issues. Holding me close, Ethan said, "Maybe it's because I'm so happy in this life that my stomach's doing great." Still, I set strict dietary rules for him. 5 years into our marriage, our love hadn't faded but had only grown stronger. At 7 months pregnant, Ethan accompanied me to a prenatal checkup. As we entered the hospital, we heard a familiar voice yelling. Not far away, Emily, heavily pregnant, was berating a man, pointing at his nose and cursing. "Useless. Can't even provide for your wife and child. You think you're something?" The scar on the man's cheek shifted up and down with the movement of his mouth, making him look especially menacing. The man roared angrily, "Shut up. If it wasn't for you insisting I quit my job and moved to the city, would I have gotten into that car accident? Would I have ended up disabled? Now I've lost my hand. I can't find a job. And you have the nerve to despise me? I'm telling you, this is all your fault. You wretched curse. Turned out to be Liam. After all the twists and turns, they were still together. Liam looked worn and haggard. His face darker from the sun. His right sleeve hung empty, and his expression was twisted with rage. He moved as if to hit Emily. It's all your fault, he screamed. I could have had a great wife, a stable job, a house, and a car. I was on my way to becoming a chief engineer, respected in my field. You ruined everything. Held back by bystanders, Liam's strength finally gave out. He crumpled to the ground, clutching his head, his face wet with tears. It was unclear if they were from regret or pain. Why did you come back for me? Why? Even now, he still blamed Emily entirely for their situation. Emily's eyes were cold, her voice icy as she replied, I always knew you couldn't get over Renee. If you like her so much, why don't you go find her? Why did you insist on being with me in the last life? You're the kind of man who wants the food in the pot and the food in the bowl. Losing your hand is exactly what you deserve. Karma from the heavens. The moment she finished speaking, our eyes met. This time, Liam didn't charge at me to cause trouble. Instead, he turned and walked upstairs. Liam knelt on the ground for a long time before numbly leaving. Ethan and I exchanged a glance, silently agreeing to act as if nothing had happened. After finishing the prenatal checkup, Ethan held me close as we descended the stairs. Wife. I'm so glad I have you. I smiled and gently squeezed his hand. Husband. I'm glad I have you too. I knew that. Like me. He was momentarily lost in thought after witnessing that scene. Two people who had been lonely and broken in another life were now given a second chance. With love and a child on the way. Wasn't it like a dream? As if trying to reassure each other. We held hands tightly, warmth flowing between us. Our hearts finally settling. Just as we stepped out of the hospital doors, a loud crash shattered the calm. Someone jumped. Quick. Call a doctor. This person is bleeding so much. Is it because life was too hard to bear without a left hand? Where's his family? Who knows? Out of the corner of my eye, I glimpsed a familiar brown figure. But Ethan and I tacitly agreed not to turn around. We walked to the parking lot, where Ethan opened the passenger door for me. He buckled my seatbelt, kissed me, and draped a blanket over my legs. Let's go home. Wife. Okay. All right. Let's go. Baby. We're going home for dinner. Behind us, one white-clad doctor after another rushed out. Whether the person lived or died, we would never know. As we drove away, Emily, also heavily pregnant, ran past us toward the commotion. The car pulled further and further away. In the end, we were never meant to be on the same path.